Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. Container plantings allow you to have a small garden wherever you want. Today we are planting one. Also, in the humid summer, tomatoes are susceptible to blight. Today we're going to talk about when and what to spray to keep the blight at bay. That's just ahead of the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Joellen Dimond. Joellen is a horticulturist, and Mr. D will be joining me later. All right, Joellen, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Container.
Yes, we got a container.
I can't wait to see you do this, right?
Yeah, we're going to plant a container today.
Okay, all right.
And containers, you can plant in anything as long as it holds soil. Most important thing you need to remember is drainage.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Make sure you have a hole
Right,
for drainage.
and it does, it does.
It has a hole. And I happen to have some clay pot shards. I'm putting this over the hole so the soil won't go down through it.
Okay.
I've gotten to, so that I like to use pine needles in the bottom before I put soil in. I don't know why, it's a little bit of drainage issue.
Okay, that's interesting. I've never heard that before.
Sometimes people use pine cones.
Okay.
And I have just gathered up pine straw and pine cones and used it at the bottom. Again, another layer to for drainage in the bottom of the pot and to keep the soil at bay from going into the
so it holds the soil in place.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
And next, we're going to put soil in. That is a huge debate. What type of soil, how much soil, and everything. I usually try to get something that's similar to, I don't use potting soil. Potting soil to me is too light, and it dries out, and when it dries out, it's hard to re-water again. So I like to just use some type of composted material in a container. And I have here, this is garden soil for in-use ground, but this is good. That means that it'll have a good mix of compost for our container. So I'll let you pour that in.
All right. And we're going to pour all of it, right?
Pour all in.
All right, there you go. Looks good.
And a lot of people, there's a controversy about this. But I like to use actual soil.
Like soil from the ground?
From the ground.
Oh,
This happens to come out of my garden. I figure the soil that's in my garden is pretty good and there's no diseases or anything in it. So I like to add actual soil with the containerized soil.
Okay, so what kind of ratio are we talking about? You just pour it all in there, just a little bit at a time?
I'd like to do about 20%.
Okay.
And I don't have a whole lot in here.
Yeah.
So it's probably going to be just about right.
Okay.
I'll move that. And then, there's roots and things in here. Again, compost, it's just soil. So I'm just going to incorporate this in the root zone. I don't have to get it all the way down to the bottom because I just want it where the plants are going to grow. Now, I think we might need just a little bit more.
Okay, I get that. Just to top it off.
Finish it out.
So how far below the limb?
Well, I'm going to put plants in here, so we may end up having too much soil in here. But you don't want to put it all the way up to the top because as you plant plants, it'll raise the soil up.
Right.
And you're not trying to bury all the plants in here.
Okay.
Next thing I like to use, this particular site, even though it's shady now, will be get the afternoon and evening sun, so it's a very hot place. And so I like to use soil moist polymers. I just want them in the top root zone. I don't want them everywhere in it, so that should be.
That's interesting.
These they expand 10 times and they hold water and have more water than available once you re-wet them every time you water for the roots to have, and you can spread out your watering of your container.
Okay, so it holds a lot of moisture.
Holds moisture for it, but you see, they disappear.
Yeah, they do.
So the first thing, when it comes to selecting your plants, you got to think of the design principles. Texture, color, and the texture. You need to have different textures of your plants, like a coarse texture, a fine texture, a medium texture. And then, of course, the container trifecta of the thriller plant, the big eye-catching plant, the spillers, things that go over the side, and then everything that fills in between.
Fillers, okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
So we've got that today, and I'm trying new plants for me.
Oh, we're trying something new. All right. What do we have?
This is a variegated banana of some type.
Okay.
And you see the roots are really good in it. It's not over.
nice.
You don't have to do anything.
It's well fertilized. Okay.
It's well fertilized. And since this is against a wall, I'm not going to put it in the middle. I'm going to put it at the back because I don't need anything. There's nothing behind the wall. And we want to plant this at the same level of depth that it is right here. I'm not going to cover this with soil. And it does not need any deeper than the soil in the container, and that goes for everything we plant in here.
So we don't have to do anything to the root ball itself?
No, it's not. And you'll notice we've got soil up here.
Yeah.
We've got to make room for everything else we're going to plant, so that will be the new soil level.
Okay.
And then I have my spillers. This is a variegated, Marguerite sweet potato vine.
Okay.
This is a dwarf one. I think it's Caroline or something. So it's not going to go crazy, but by the end of the summer, it will spill over the container. So I will plant it. Just look at my depth and plant the same depth that it is. And then I also have a new plant for me, a Heuchera, coral bells. And it's yellow to go with the sweet potato vine.
Yeah.
I've never put this in a container before, so
we'll try it out and see.
We're going to try this and see. A lot of new firsts for me here. So I'm going to put this right here. This is again a new plant for me. This is a racine. It happens to have a coleus that I broke off from something else I planted. I happened to just stick it in there, and it's rooted. So I'll take that off. We're not going to put it in here. But
it's two for one.
This is a racine, and I'd never used racines before.
Okay.
But we shall see how they do. And let me get this coleus off of it and put him back in the pot to be planted somewhere else. And I did cut the top of it out because it was not bushing, and I didn't like that. But you see, when I cut the top off, which is the apical was cut, look at all these side shoots that are coming out.
So where did you cut it?
I cut it just at the tip.
You cut it right at the tip? Okay.
Right at the tip.
And
I
it
cut
just
the
branched
tip
out.
off.
Okay.
And now it's branching out.
That's nice.
So we shall see how this grows. I don't know. I do not know. It's something new.
It's trial container planting. We're going to find out, right?
Yep, we are going to find out. We're going to put a couple more of these in. But I'm going to put the other racine right here. And then I've got another spiller, which is a wave petunia.
Yeah.
I just like this color. I thought it went well with
I like
everything.
petunias anyway. Yeah.
I'm going to put it up in front here. Then I have some pink begonias that I thought I would fill in with.
Okay. Nice one.
We'll be able to get both of these in with plenty of room.
Yeah.
And
so we're looking good on the soil? You don't need any more soil?
I think we're going to need just a little bit of soil.
Just a little bit? Okay.
Here.
Can you dig it in there?
I'm just going to put these in here. Just add a little bit of soil in here.
That good?
I'm going to need one more just to make sure. Got enough.
Okay.
I'd rather add soil than have to take it away and have it spill all over the place.
I would agree with that.
So I like to do a little bit at a time. Just a little bit in between these two, and I think We're good. Now, before we put some mulch on the top, I'm going to put some slow release fertilizer.
So we can actually use slow release fertilizers in pots?
Yes.
Right? In containers? Really? Okay.
Yes. I like it to fertilize for a while. I want to help them get us started.
It is dusty.
All right. Now, the only thing that's left
What's left?
is some mulch. And I like to put mulch in all the containers, and there's so many different kinds. You can use any kind you want.
Sure.
I have started liking pine needles.
Yeah.
I think when you water it then, it hits the pine needles and it disperses the water and
Okay,
you don't
I can
get
see that.
holes in the pot.
I can see that.
So I've started liking, and it's free
And it's free. Right.
because I have pine trees. So I have been starting to use pine needles.
I've never really seen anybody put mulch in a container before, so this is actually new for me.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I hadn't seen that.
mulching containers it helps keep moisture in the pot, looks nice, and I think it helps break up the water when you're watering it.
Wow.
The last thing we need to do is water it, and I have some water.
Okay.
Since our soil was moist and our plants were moist, I will just probably water just with this 1 gallon,
Sure.
and it might come out the bottom, it might not,
Right.
but I'll probably have to water it again in the next day or two. I'll water it, you have to keep checking it.
Yeah. Because this will be sitting out in the full sun.
It will be in the full sun,
Yeah.
and it's got to establish. And the best way that I know how to tell if it's moist or not is with my own hands. I will just stick my hand down in here and see if it's moist.
Yeah.
If it is, then I won't water it. If it's a little dry, then I will water it.
Okay.
And then it'll get established, and we'll see how it does this summer.
We're going to definitely see. I'm curious to see what this banana's going to look like.
The banana and
once we
the
get out in the full sun,
racine
right?
and the hooter. I mean,
Yeah.
I've just never put any of this kind of stuff together. So, but they all seem to like the same kind of moisture level and sunlight. So that's the most important thing when you're picking out plants too, besides the texture and the color.
All right, well, we shall see. Thank you for the demonstration.
Thank you.
All right.
Here we have a sage plant. This particular cultivar we're looking at has a solid green leaf, but there are variegated cultivars. So some other things this plant has going for it: very highly aromatic leaves. I mean, it smells so delicious. Another unique thing about this plant is that it's in bloom right now. You can see it has a beautiful purple bloom, and so this plant, really isn't valued highly for its bloom, but it does have a gorgeous purple bloom in the summertime. Another neat thing about this plant is that it's in the same family as salvias and mints, and you can tell because when you roll this newest growth, this soft tender growth in your fingers, the stem is four-sided, and that's an indicator that it falls into that family. As far as mature plant size, we're probably looking at somewhere between 18 and 24 inches tall, and it has more of a sprawling habit. Sage plants don't really have any prominent pests or diseases of note, but we can tell on this particular plant. I'm going to show you a little bit of feeding damage that we've had from probably whiteflies. Any kind of insect that has the piercing type mouth parts could create this type of feeding pattern that we call stippling. But again, not a huge pest, nothing that's going to warrant control. So a couple of notes about siting in the garden. This plant really loves full sun and excellent drainage in the soil, okay? We don't want to put this anywhere that's a low-lying area that collects water or has a heavy soil structure, like a very heavy clay. And it also helps this plant overwinter. It is a perennial, so it's going to come back for you year after year in the garden as long as it has good drainage and full sun site conditions.
Hi, Mr. D. This is the Mid-South. We love our tomatoes, but tomatoes we know have many problems.
They do, they do.
We need a spray schedule for our tomatoes. Can you help us out?
I can. I mean, the UT and the Red Book can also help you out. The most common problem on tomatoes in our high humidity environment is blight.
Yes.
And late blight is the number one disease problem on tomatoes in our area, and it occurs early in the season.
It comes early.
Yeah, I don't know why they call it late blight. But the best way to take care of that is to put your tomatoes on a spray schedule. You need to remember, for the most part, fungicides, especially vegetable fungicides that are approved on vegetables, are preventative in nature only. So if you wait until you see the disease, then you're behind in the game, because the fungicides that we put out there on vegetables will not treat a problem. They simply will prevent it from spreading.
Right.
So if you want to prevent tomato disease problems, start spraying early. Spray during dry conditions every 14 days with either chlorothalonil or mancozeb. If it's during rainy conditions, if you haven't gotten more than a 2-inch rain, then you can spray about every 7 days. Okay. If it rains more than 2 inches, you assume it washed the fungicide off. Now if you apply the fungicide today and it rains tomorrow, a 1/2 inch rain, just stick on the 7-day schedule, provided that the fungicide had time to dry on the plant.
Okay.
Now, if you get out there and spray right now and 15 minutes later you get a 1/2 inch rain,
right,
then your fungicide's washed off.
Right.
So it needs to dry on the leaves before it's rain fast. During dry conditions, if we don't get a lot of rain, you can spread that length of time out to 14 days every 2 weeks. And I recommend mixing the chemistry, mentioned mancozeb and chlorothalonil. Get both of those products, and then I would spray one of them 1 week and the other one the next week, and just alternate them.
Right.
That way you will hopefully prevent resistance building up with that fungus. But do that. If you start to see some insects causing you a problem there, tomato hornworms or something like that, simply include some BT in that same spray mixture, and you can
you can
mix the fungicide with the insecticides.
Right.
Or if you don't have any insect problems, just strictly go with the fungicide.
Okay.
But if you do that, and you do that up until frost, you should have good homegrown tomatoes until that time.
So you would start with the application with the fungicides when?
Now, because the disease pressure is already out there.
Right.
I would start now. I wouldn't wait until I see the disease, because then you're behind. Stay ahead of the game with fungicides.
And you got to make sure you have to get good coverage, though.
You've got to have good coverage. You need to spray to the point of runoff. You don't have to drench the plant and let it run off the plant, but spray to just before that happens. That's like tightening the bolt to like 1/4 of an inch before it breaks. It's really kind of hard to figure out exactly how to do that. But spray just to the point of runoff. Make sure you direct your spray to the underside of the leaves and to lower the plant. You've got to get really good coverage. So with these small tomato plants, that's real easy to do when they're real small. As they get larger, then it'll take more product, and it'll take a little bit more time to make sure that you get good coverage. But make sure you have good coverage with it. It's just like it's a prophylactic treatment. It's like a raincoat, and is any area of that leaf that's not protected is susceptible. Most of these fungus diseases are caused by wind deposited spores, and if a spore lands on a fungicide treated leaf, it's going to die. But if it lands on a leaf that doesn't have any fungicide on it, it will start spreading.
Good analogy.
Yeah, and if you get to, like I said earlier, if you get to the point where you've got some disease anyway, if you're in a real rainy week or two and you've got some disease, just continue spraying, and you will stop it from spreading to the new growth. You won't, the leaves that are damaged will continue to be damaged, but it won't spread to your new growth. And so don't get discouraged if you have a little disease pressure anyway. But be faithful, 7 to 14 days, mancozeb, chlorothalonil, a combination of those, and follow label directions. Always follow label directions. Wash your tomatoes real good when before you eat them.
Yes. When is the best time to spray the fungicide? Because I'm sure somebody's thinking about that.
I would say you want to make sure the fungicide dries on the plant. So probably the worst time to spray would be late in the afternoon,
Okay.
right before sundown, right at dark,
Right.
or at night, because that plant will stay wet longer, and fungal diseases like wet conditions.
Right.
So early in the day, middle of the day, mid-afternoon, as long as that plant can dry after you apply the product, then you're in good shape.
Want to make sure it dries.
We'll make sure the plant can dry.
Mr. D, we appreciate that. It's
Good
stuff.
deal.
All right.
So if you're out in your garden this spring and summer and you notice some fine webbing over your plants, this could be a visual indicator that you have an infestation of spider mites. Spider mites will feed on a wide variety of different types of plants in your landscape. So here we can see that we have a cluster of really fine webbing at the tip of this branch, and on closer inspection we found more webbing dispersed all throughout this plant. So again, this is your first visual indicator, but if you want to confirm the presence of this pest to make sure that they are still present and actively feeding before you institute any kind of control measures, one easy way to do that is with the white paper test. So take a white piece of paper, put it close to your plant, and give it a little shake. Okay, so now that we've done the test and we can see that there are actual spider mites present on the plant, now is the time that we could shift gears and start thinking about control methods. So I would start with looking at some cultural control options. Obviously, this plant is already stressed, so we want to focus on improving those growing conditions. Then we could come in, if the infestation is not too heavy, we could certainly just prune out the places of the plant where we are seeing the heaviest loads. Then we could give the rest of that plant a good a spray with a good strong stream of water. And then from there, maybe we would look at some of our other chemical controls like insecticidal oils, soaps, things of that nature. So those steps should help you take care of your spider mite infestation, and from there on, just keep an eye on it throughout the growing season.
All right, Joellen, here's our Q&A segment. You ready?
I'm ready.
These are some great questions.
Yes, they are.
All right, here's our first via email. Every year, dollar weed chokes out my grass by the end of summer. What can I do to help my grass? And this is Ron. He says normally the grass returns in the spring, but not this year. And he says he's tried weed and feed last fall, but it did not help. So, dollar weed
Dollar weed.
is a problem.
That's a big problem.
It is a problem.
Because if you leave any piece of it in the ground, it will come back. I'm thinking a herbicide spray on it. He's going to have to again establish his lawn after he gets after he gets rid of it.
Yeah.
But I would think some type of herbicide would be the best way to get rid of it.
So you'd be correct. This could almost be my question, right? Because I have a yard full of dollar weed. And the reason why I have it is because I have poor drainage in my backyard. Dollar weed loves poorly drained soils or wet soils, right? So if you're going to use an herbicide, three-way herbicide. Three-way herbicide, you would do that in the spring, something that contains 2,4-D, Mercaprop, right? Dicamba, is another one. That's part of the three-way herbicide. We didn't follow the label on that, Mr. Run, and establish a thick line, right, to choke out your dollar weed. Right?
Yes.
Our pennywort is the other name for it, pennywort, right? So yeah, I think if you do that, I think you'll be fine. Yeah, but it's a tough weed. And fix your drainage issue. I should be talking to myself, right? Fix your drainage issue, right? That will help as well.
Is there any way he can get it to not be so wet?
Yeah, not so wet.
Yeah.
And Mr. Run, you figure that out, tell me. I have the same issue. All right, thank you for that question. All right, here's our next via email. How do I get lilacs to last longer than a few days in a vase? And this is Ann from Rochester, New York. So how can she do that?
Well, I used to love, living in Illinois, we had lilacs. They're beautiful,
Really? Okay.
gorgeous. And she's right, they don't last very long, but this is how you can help. You try to pick a flower that's only about 3/4 open. So you're going to have some buds on the end of it. You bring it inside, it's going to be woody. You're going to smash the end of the stem.
You smash it
Because it gets more water inside. And then you put it in water with preservative the floral preservative, and then you take off all of the green leaves as
Okay.
much as you can,
Okay. Up the stem.
up the stem.
Okay.
And that should make it last 2 to 3 days. It's still not
2
going to
days.
be, it's not going to be really long
Okay.
because they just don't do as well as cut flowers. You don't really see them in the cut flower industry because
Huh,
they just,
yeah.
they're beautiful outside and on the tree, but they don't always translate inside. But now if you're having an event at your house and you want to have some flowers, it's going to last long enough for that and give gorgeous fragrance inside your house.
So just think of
But
it that way.
it's still not going to live very long.
No,
but
right.
that's the only way I know of to extend the bloom as much as possible.
Wow. Okay. You probably have to change the water out every day.
I would think, and the floral preservative.
Yeah, every day. Mm-hmm. All right. There you have it, Miss Ann. Sounds like some work.
Some work.
It sounds like work. Well, yeah. Well, thank you for that question.
Uh-huh.
Joellen, fun as always.
It is.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is questions@familyplotgarden.com. And the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee, 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for watching. To catch any of the past segments or rewatch anything from today's show, you can visit our YouTube channel at Family Plot Garden. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.